I never thought I'd end up in a wedding dress stained with the blood of my own regrets. But there I was, staring at the altar like it was the gallows. My name's Camila Reyes, and on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, I realized I'd spent the last 8 years loving a ghost, a man who'd buried me alive to save his own skin. The photographer, this wiry guy named Eddie with a lens bigger than his conscience, pulled me aside during the cocktail hour, his breath reeking of cheap bourbon. "Camila," he whispered, shoving a Polaroid into my manicured fist. "I found something strange in the shots from the rehearsal dinner. It's him. Your groom. He's not who you think." That Polaroid hit me like a sucker punch from the grave. It wasn't some blurry ghost. It was crystal clear. Time-stamped 2 nights ago. Jake, my flawless fiancé, slipping a thumb drive into the pocket of a guy I hadn't seen since my trial, Detective Harlan Voss, the same bastard who'd nailed me for the robbery that wasn't mine. My heart jackhammered against the lace bodice of my gown, the kind of Vera Wong number that cost more than my mom's house down payment. How the hell had Jake ended up cozying with Voss, the man who'd sworn on a stack of Bibles that I'd masterminded the heist at First National Bank in downtown Chicago? The one that left me rotting in Cook County Jail for 5 years on a plea deal I took because Jake begged me to. "It'll be quick, baby," he'd sobbed into the phone from his dorm room at Northwestern. "I'll wait for you. We'll fix this together."
Lies.
All of it. Poisoned from the start. I crumpled the photo, but not before memorizing every detail. Jake's easy grin, the kind that melted juries and landed him that corner office at Goldman Sachs. Voss's meaty paw clapping his shoulder like old war buddies. The wedding venue, this sprawling estate on the outskirts of Lake Forest, blurred around me, guests in pastel linen, champagne flutes clinking like wind chimes in a hurricane. My bridesmaids, a gaggle of sorority sisters from DePaul who'd flown in from coasts I couldn't afford to visit, were snapping selfies by the rose arbor.
My dad,
grizzled and gold-toothed from his days slinging tacos in Pilsen, was chain-smoking camels out back, muttering prayers in Spanish to La Virgen de Guadalupe. And Mom? She was inside, fussing over the cake, tears like they held the secrets to eternal youth. I should have bolted right then, hiked at my skirt and run barefoot down the winding drive to the highway. But revenge isn't a sprint, it's a slow burn, the kind that chars your soul from the inside out. Jake had built his empire on my silence, my confession that painted me as the master thief, the desperate Latina girl from the wrong side of the tracks who'd cracked the vault for quick cash. Truth was, it was his idea. Back in our junior year, when we were invincible kids dreaming of Wall Street and white picket fences, Jake needed seed money for his first stock pitch. "It's foolproof, Cammy," he'd said, eyes gleaming under the neon buzz of a Wrigleyville dive bar. "In and out. No one gets hurt." I was the lookout, the driver, stupid enough to love him, blind enough to trust. When the alarm screamed and Voss's SWAT team swarmed, Jake vanished into the night, leaving me holding the bag.
Literally.
My prints on the getaway duffel. His nowhere to be found. The trial was a circus. Prosecutors painted me as the villain in a Scorsese flick, greedy, reckless, the immigrant's daughter gone bad. Jake testified as the heartbroken boyfriend, tears streaming down his all-American cheeks. "She changed, Your Honor. The money. It twisted her. I took the deal to spare him.
To keep our future intact."
5 years light. With good behavior. He visited twice a month, smuggling in contraband love notes and promises of forever. When I walked out those razor wire gates in 2020, He was there in a leased Tesla, bouquet of peonies in hand. Marry me,
Cammy.
let's bury the past. And I did. God help me, I did. Eddie hovered like a bad rash, his camera slung low. You gonna confront him? Weddings in 20. Clock's ticking. I forced a laugh, the kind that sounded like breaking glass. Not yet. Snap the pretty pictures first. Let the bastard think he's won. He nodded, slipping away into the throng. But I caught the pity in his eyes. Photographers see everything: stolen glances, clenched jaws, the micro-tremors of lies. Eddie was freelance, hired through Jake's firm connections, but something about his Chicago accent rang familiar. Maybe he'd shot my arraignment photos back in the day. Small world, big regrets. As I smoothed my veil, the string quartet struck up Pachelbel's canon, and the guests shuffled toward the ceremony lawn. Jake appeared at the French doors, tuxedo sharp as a switchblade, his blonde hair gelled just so. He was every inch the golden boy, 6'2", broad-shouldered, with that dimpled smile that closed deals and broke hearts. There's my girl, he murmured, wrapping an arm around my waist, his cologne a cloud of entitlement. Up close, he smelled like victory, bergamot, and boardrooms. I leaned into him, playing the part, my lips brushing his ear. You look like Sin. Reyes. If only he knew how right he was. We processed down the aisle under a canopy of white orchids, the late June sun gilding everything in false gold. My vows came out steady. I promised to stand by you. Through every storm, each word a barbed hook sinking deeper. Jake's were poetry, recited from memory, eyes locked on mine like I was his salvation. Bullshit. The rings slid on, platinum bands etched with our initials, JNA for Jake and Camila. Wait, no. It was JNC. Camila, not Anna. Anna was the ghost between us. The girl he'd dated before me. The one whose diary I'd found in his drawer freshman year. She was nothing, he'd said. But the Polaroid nagged. Why Voss? Why now? The kiss sealed it, fireworks popping overhead, applause thundering like Judgment Day. We recessed to Mendelssohn, arms linked, the perfect American dream. But as we hit the receiving line, my phone buzzed in my clutch. A text from an unknown number. Check the darkroom. Eddie's got more. Run while you can. My blood turned to ice water. Who the hell was this? Jake's hand tightened on mine. Oblivious. Cake cutting next.
Babe.
Your mom's recipe, right? With the dulce de leche? I nodded, throat dry as the Sahara. The darkroom, Eddie must have set up in the carriage house. Excusing myself for powder room touch-up, I slipped away, heels sinking into the manicured grass. The carriage house loomed at the edge of the property, a relic from robber baron days, now tricked out with developing trays and LED safe lights. Eddie was inside, hunched over a contact sheet, cigarette dangling from his lip. You came, he grunted, not looking up. Figured you would. Spill it, I demanded, slamming the door. The air reeked of fixer and formaldehyde, a chemical tomb. He slid a stack of prints across the scarred oak table. There I was, mid-laugh at the rehearsal, but in the background, Jake and Voss again, this time in deep conversation by the valet stand. And then, the kicker, a grainy enlargement from the bank heist surveillance, the one the DA had waved like a bloody flag. But wait. The figure in the hoodie, the one they'd ID'd as me by a stray earring? It wasn't. The build was wrong, slimmer shoulders, narrower hips.
Jake's.
Son of a bitch, I breathed. You doctored these? Eddie barked a laugh.
Nah. Doll.
These are raw. I moonlighted for the trib back in 17. Covered your trial. Kept the negatives. But this? He tapped the thumb drive print. That's fresh. Voss is dirty, shaking down Jake for protection money. Your boy's laundering firm cash through offshore shells. And Voss is the cop who looks the other way. For a cut. My world tilted. Not just betrayal, conspiracy. Jake hadn't just framed me. He'd turned the screw, building his life on my ruin while flirting with the devil who locked me up.
And now,
on our wedding day, the noose was tightening. Why tell me? I whispered. Because I lost a sister to guys like him. Overdosed in county lockup. Thought you deserved the truth. He lit another smoke, exhaling regret. But if you blow this up, you go down too. Accomplice after the fact. The bell tolled from the main house. Cake time. I pocketed a print, mind racing. Revenge wasn't exposure, it was precision. I'd smile through the toasts, dance the aura, then gut him from the inside. Thanks, Eddie. Oh, you won. As I hurried back, skirt whispering secrets. Jake's text lit my screen. Where are you?
guests are asking.
I typed back. Coming.
Love.
Wouldn't miss a second.
Lies.
Layered like the fondant on that cake. The storm was brewing, and I was the lightning. The reception tent was a fever dream of excess, crystal chandeliers dangling like nooses, tables groaning under lobster thermidor, and heirloom tomato salads flown in from some Napa vineyard Jake's partners insisted on. Waiters in starched whites darted like shadows, pouring Veuve Clicquot into flutes that caught the fairy lights and shattered them into rainbows. My cousin Sophia,
Crie aux Édipes.
grabbed my arm as I re-entered the fray.
Mia.
You okay? Look like you saw El Diablo. I forced a grin, the kind that hid switchblades. Just nerves. Pass the bubbly. Jake was holding court at the head table, regaling his Goldman Sachs bros with tales of our love conquers all bullshit. He spotted me, waved me over with that megawatt smile. There she is, my runaway bride. Laughter rippled, but his eyes sharpened, predator sensing blood. Up close, I could see the faint tick in his jaw, the one that surfaced when deals soured. Did he know? About Eddie, the prince. Voss lurking like a bad sequel? We cut the cake to cheers. My hand over his on the knife. Silver slicing through tiers of vanilla sponge and salted caramel. Flashbulbs popped, Eddie circling like a vulture, capturing the saccharine lie. Jake smeared frosting on my nose, and I laughed, high and brittle, the sound echoing in my skull. To us, he toasted later, glass raised, voice booming over the mic. Camila, you pulled me from the darkest days. Without you, I'd be lost. The crowd awed, my stomach churned. Darkest days? Try the ones I spent in a 6x8 cell, counting cracks in the concrete while he climbed the ladder. As the band kicked into Sweet Caroline, Jake swept me onto the floor for our first dance. His arms were iron bands, guiding me through the sway, but I felt the tremor in his grip. You seem distant, he murmured, breath hot against my temple. Everything good? I tilted my head, lashes fluttering like butterfly knives. Perfect, baby. Just overwhelmed. This, I gestured at the opulence. The 200 guests airlifted from our fractured pasts. It's everything I dreamed. Lie number 7. Or was it 8? We'd reconnected post-prison at a UIC alumni mixer. He was the hotshot analyst. I was the barista with a record, slinging lattes at a Loop cafe. One shared glance over flat whites, and the old fire reignited. Or so I thought.
Now.
With the Polaroid burning a hole in my garter, it felt like arson. The song faded, and I excused myself again, this time for real air. Slipping out a side flap, I hit the veranda, overlooking the lake, the water black as my mood under the rising moon. My phone buzzed, another unknown text. Voss is here. Black SUV. East lot. He's not alone.
Shit.
I scanned the shadows, spotting the gleam of tinted windows among the Benzas and Escalades. Heart pounding, I texted back. Who is this? No reply. Eddie? Or a ghost from my pre-Jake life? Footsteps crunched gravel, Voss. Lumbering into view like a discount Columbo, cheap suit straining over his gut. He lit a cigar, the cherry glow illuminating pork chop sideburns and eyes like chipped flint. MS. Reyes. Or should I say Mrs. Harlan?
Congrats.
His voice was gravel in a blender, laced with that South Side drawl. I froze. Back to the tent wall, the lake lapping indifferently. Detective. Slumming it at weddings now. He chuckled, smoke curling like accusations. Heard you tied the knot with that golden boy. Good for you. Fresh start.
Right?
After that. Misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? The word ignited something feral. 5 years isn't a misunderstanding.
Voss.
It's a sentence. He shrugged, puffing away. You copped the plea. Smart girl. Kept your mouth shut about the real players. Real players. Plural. Not just Jake. Before I could press. Tires crunched, Jake's Tesla pulling up. Headlights slicing the dark. He killed the engine. Stepped out smooth as silk. Cammy, you out here? Voss melted into the treeline like he'd never been. Cigar stub ground under heel. Jake approached. Concern etched just deep enough to sell. Babe. What's wrong? You're pale as that dress. I swallowed the truth, opting for half-lie. Saw an old face. Triggered some memories. He pulled me close, lips brushing my forehead. The past is dead.
Cammy.
We're alive. Focus on that. But the past wasn't dead. It was exhumed, clawing its way up. Back inside. The party's pulse throbbed, garter toss. Bouquet lob. My sorority girls shrieking as I hurled the lilies toward single desperation. Jake caught the garter midair, winking at the crowd before sliding it up my thigh under the tablecloth. Fingers lingering too long. Possessive. Controlling. I'd chalked it up to passion once. Now it felt like chains. Midway through the aura, my phone vibrated again. Check Jake's briefcase. Suite 412.
Now.
The bridal suite was upstairs in the main house. A bridal warren of silk sheets and monogrammed robes. I feigned a migraine. Jake nodding sympathetically. Go rest.
Love.
I'll handle the stragglers. And climbed the grand staircase. Skirt hitched like a battle flag. The suite was a shrine to our delusion, rose petals scattered like confetti from hell. A bottle of Dom chilling in silver. Jake's briefcase sat on the vanity. Monogrammed leather screaming old money. I flipped the latches, unlocked. Arrogant as him. Inside, contracts. A Beretta 9mm nestled in velvet. What the fuck? And a manila folder labeled Reyes file. My hands shook as I rifled through transcripts from my trial, highlighted with Jake's neon scrawls. Leverage. One note read, "She'll never talk." Then, photos, me in orange, visiting hours, his face pressed to the glass, but clipped to the back. A deposition draft. Voss's signature. And Jake's. They'd colluded, post-release, to bury any loose ends. But the real gut punch, a paternity test. Negative. Addressed to Anna, his ex. The one who'd OD'd 6 months after my arrest. Not the father, it confirmed. What the hell? Voices drifted up, Jake's laugh. Booming. Time was slipping. I snapped pics with my phone, evidence stacking like Jenga blocks on the edge of collapse. As I snapped the case shut, the door creaked. Mom stood there, eyes red-rimmed, a champagne coupe dangling forgotten. Camila.
Mia.
I saw you with that man outside. The detective. ¿Qué pasa? Her English fractured under worry, the accent thick from decades in Little Village. I collapsed onto the chaise, the weight crashing down. Everything.
Mama. Jake.
He set me up. The robbery. The jail, it was him. All of it. The words tumbled. A dam breaking. Her face crumpled. Not shock, but sorrow. The kind etched from losing a daughter to the system. I knew, she whispered. Your abuelita warned me. That boy has serpent eyes. But you loved him.
Loved.
Past tense. Sharp as shattered crystal. She crossed to me, rosary beads clicking like gunfire. What now? Call the police? Ruin the day. Ruin? It was already ash. But sirens would drag us all under. Me for perjury. Jake for fraud. Voss for corruption. No clean hands here. Not yet, I said. Stealing. I end this my way. Downstairs. The party's dying embers, guests thinning. Band packing up. Jake found me on the veranda again. Dawn creeping pink over the lake. Missed you. His kiss tasted like ash. One more dance. I nodded, letting him lead me back in. As we swayed to some Sinatra ballad, I whispered, "Remember our first heist? The rush?" His body stiffened. Just a fraction. What? The bank. You in the hoodie. Me driving. His eyes went flat. The mask cracking. You're drunk, Cammy. But I wasn't. And as the clock struck midnight, I knew the Real ceremony was just beginning. The after-party was Jake's idea, a surprise yacht charter on Lake Michigan. Dawn patrol for the diehards. By 4 a.m., a skeleton crew of us boarded the Serendipity, a 60-foot Hinckley owned by one of his venture capital sharks. The air was crisp, laced with diesel and desperation, the city skyline receding like a bad memory as we cut through the buoys. I stood at the rail, wind whipping my updo into Medusa snarls, the bridal gown traded for jeans and a hoodie, ironic.
That.
Jake sidled up, arms snaking around my waist. Best day ever. Right? His voice was honey over razor wire. I turned, studying him in the sodium glow of the deck lights. The man I'd rebuilt my life around. Wharton MBA. TEDx speaker on fintech ethics, the irony. The guy who volunteered at soup kitchens for Instagram clout. But peel back the polish. And there was rot. Yeah, I lied, clinking my solo cup of rail tequila against his bourbon. Eternal.
Inside.
The engine thrummed like my pulse, steady, relentless. The text had stopped, but Voss's SUV had tailed us from the estate, vanishing at the marina. Eddie? MIA since cake. And Mom, she'd slipped away with Dad at midnight, murmuring, "Be safe." Corazon, like she was sending me to war. The yacht's salon was a floating frat house, Jake's bros in untucked button-downs, my cousins nursing IPAs, a DJ spinning EDM remixes of nuptial classics. Sophia cornered me by the wet bar, eyes glassy. Spill.
Cammy.
You're vibrating like a live wire. I glanced at Jake, holding court with war stories from the trading floor. Later, I mouthed, pressing a flask into her hand. Keep him occupied. She nodded, the sister I'd wished for, diving into a tequila shot contest that devolved into bad karaoke. Slipping below decks to the stateroom, I fired up Jake's iPad, password our anniversary. The month I got out. Arrogant prick. Emails flooded, threads with Voss, coded in Wall Street euphemisms. Asset protection for bribes. Legacy cleanup for my framed confession. And Anna. Dozens of messages. Frantic post-heist. You left me holding the pieces.
Jake.
The baby's not yours. But the guilt is. She'd been pregnant? By the real inside man? A rival trader Jake had screwed over? The pieces slotted. Anna knew too much. Threatened to talk. Jake paid her off.
Then.
Nothing. Her OD ruled accidental. But the coroner's addendum in the file? Benzodiazepines spiked with fentanyl. Homicide disguised as despair. Nausea hit like a rogue wave. Not just betrayal, murder. My fiancé, the man who'd vowed in sickness and health, had blood on his Brooks Brothers cuffs. I scrolled deeper. Wire transfers to a Cayman shell, funneled through the bank we'd robbed. The heist wasn't desperation, it was empire building. Jake had played me like a mark, then Voss as muscle, Anna as collateral. And me, the patsy, the pretty diversion. Voices on deck, Jake's. Slurred. Cammy?
Babe.
Where you at? I deleted my search history.
Tucked the iPad away.
Time to flip the script. Emerging topside, I found the party thinning. Horizon blushing crimson. Jake pulled me onto a lounger, his head on my lap, murmuring stock tips like pillow talk. We're unstoppable now. You and me against the world. I stroked his hair, nails grazing scalp, a lover's touch with murderer's intent. Tell me about Anna, I said softly. His body went rigid, then slack, feigning sleep.
Who?
Bullshit. Your ex. The one before me. She wrote about you in her diary. Found it once. A beat. Then a chuckle. Ancient history. Why bring her up? I leaned down, lips to his ear. Because her ghost is in our photos.
Jake.
And Voss? He's cashing checks on our honeymoon fund. His eyes snapped open. Blue ice. What the fuck are you talking about? I shoved the phone pics under his nose, the briefcase shots, the deposition. His face drained, the golden boy paling to ash. Cammy, listen, but I was done listening. You framed me. Killed her. Built this. I swept an arm at the yacht. The life we'd curated, on graves. He sat up, glancing at the stragglers, his bros too wasted to notice. My crew clustered by the rail. It wasn't like that. The heist spiraled. Anna. She was unstable. The pills were hers. Lies. Layered thick. Voss's voice crackled over the marine radio. Static-laced. Harlan. You on this frequency? Got a problem. Jake bolted to the helm, snatching the mic. Voss. What the hell? Garbled response. Leak. Someone's talking. Your wife's name's on it. My name. Plural again. The unknown texter? Eddie. Outing the whole rotten core? Panic flickered in Jake's eyes, real. For once. He rounded on me. You did this? After everything? Everything? 5 years stolen. Trust incinerated.
No. Jake.
You did. He lunged, hand clamping my wrist, the Beretta's outline bulging in his waistband. We can fix this. Like always. Say the word, and it's over. Over. Anna's fate? Voss's cleanup crew? Sophia's scream shattered the dawn. Voss's SUV.
No.
A speedboat roaring parallel. Wake slapping the hull. Armed shadows aboard. Chicago PD vests glinting. Police. Cut engines. Jake's grip crushed bone. I twisted free. Knee to groin. He doubled.
Gasping.
Bitch. I grabbed the rail. Yelling. He's got a gun. In his belt. Chaos erupted. Bros diving for cover. Cousins scrambling. The DJ's set cutting to sirens. Voss's boat grappled alongside. Officers swarming like ants on sugar. Jake bolted for the stateroom. But Voss met him at the hatch, taser drawn. 50,000 volts dropping him like a felled oak. You're done, kid. Cuffs clicked. Miranda rights blurring into white noise. But the twist? Voss turned to me. Smirk crooked. You too? Reyes. Accomplice. Accomplice? I'd confessed under duress. But the texts, my phone, pinging with Jake's planted evidence. A setup within a setup. Eddie emerged from below, camera in hand, not freelance footage, but IA plant. Got it all on tape. Camila. Your chats with Jake. The post-prison meets. You're as deep as him. Betrayal's echo chamber. I'd been played again. Voss and Eddie. The real duo. Using Jake to bait me into fresh perjury. Or was it Jake? Zip-tied on deck. Met my eyes. I did it for us.
Cammy.
To protect you from them.
Them.
Voss's corruption ring. Preying on ex-cons like me. The heist? A sting gone wrong. Anna, the whistleblower they silenced. Jake had framed me to shield me, taking the fall's heat while infiltrating from inside. Guns drawn. Officers herded us. Sophia wept, Mom's rosary prayers carried on the wind. No heroes here, just survivors clawing through gray. As they marched me off, Jake's whisper cut. Fight it. I love you.
Love.
The most controversial word of all. The federal holding cell in Milwaukee smelled like bleach and broken promises, stark fluorescent buzz. Cinder block walls scrawled with sharp pleas from prior occupants. They processed me separate from Jake. Voss in a van to Chicago homicide. Eddie, the rat, vanished into witness protection. His sister's story likely as fabricated as my confession. 24 hours blurred. Fingerprints. Mugshot, me in rumpled silk blouse. Eyes hollow as the judge's gavel. Then the arraignment shuffle. Feds. Not county this time. RICO charges. Conspiracy to defraud. Obstruction. The works. My public defender. A harried kid named Patel with coffee stains on his tie muttered, "Plea out. They're gunning for the whole network." Network. Voss's empire. Dirty cops shaking down white-collar crooks, using fall guys like me to launder the dirt. Jake had waited in post-heist, playing double agent, framing me to buy time, feeding intel to the feds anonymously. But Anna? Her death was the fracture. Pregnant with Voss's kid. Not some rivals. She'd threatened exposure. Jake silenced her to protect the op. Or, so the narrative spun. My narrative?
Mud.
The planted texts on my burner. Let's finish what we started. Post-wedding hit on Voss tied me to a fabricated murder plot. Jake's doing? Or Voss's insurance? Bail hearing was a circus. Tabloids screaming, wedding from hell. Bride's bridegroom busted. Paparazzi swarming the courthouse like locusts. Mom and Dad posted the house, little village bungalow. Paid off with my rehab gig at the cafe, and I walked. Ankle monitor humming like a guilty heartbeat.
Jake? Denied.
Flight risk. His Goldman Sachs empire crumbled overnight. Clients fleeing. SEC sniffing. Voss? Suspended pending IA. But whispers said he'd flip first. Cut a deal naming names. Back in our no. His Gold Coast condo. The place felt like a mausoleum. Wedding gifts unopened. My toiletries mocking from the marble bath. I boxed it all. Shipped to Mom's. Then hit the streets. Revenge phase 2. Not destruction, but demolition.
Hired a PI.
Ex-Chicago PD named Ruiz. Tough broad with a buzz cut and a grudge against Voss from her academy days. $50 an hour. Plus tacos, she quipped over Al Pastor at a Pilsen joint.
Deal.
Ruiz dug fast. Anna's tox report. Discrepancies in the fentanyl source, traced to Voss's side hustle. Pills peddled from precinct lockers. Jake's anonymous tips? Buried in FBI dead files. But Ruiz sweet-talked a contact. Your boy's a ghost asset, she said, sliding a dossier over greasy napkins. Feds used him to infiltrate. Framed you to keep cover. Anna. He didn't kill her. Voss did. Then pin the OD. Twist on twist. Jake's controversial call. Sacrifice my freedom to dismantle the ring from within. Hero? Or monster? Dooming me for the greater good? I visited him at MCC. Glass partition between us like the lies. He looked smaller and orange, stubble shadowing the dimples. Cammy. You came. His voice crackled through the speaker.
Raw.
I never stopped. I pressed a palm to the plexi. Why not tell me? 5 years.
Jake.
I rotted while you played savior. He leaned in, eyes wet. Voss had eyes everywhere. One slip, and you'd be next. Anna found out, tried to run. I got her the cash. But Voss. A swallow. I confessed to protect you. The frame was my idea, but the feds greenlit it. Off books. Off books. Deniable. American justice. Red, white, and bloody. And the gun? The briefcase. He shook his head.
Props.
To bait Voss at the wedding. Eddie was wired, IA through and through. The photographer. The texts, all orchestrated. But the paternity test? Anna lied.
To hurt me.
Voss was the father.
Yeah.
She used it as leverage. Leverage that got her killed. Jake's flip. Controversial mercy kill? No, he'd beg her to abort.
To ghost.
Voss pulled the trigger. Literal and figurative. I left with more questions, but a plan coalescing. Ruiz tailed Voss to a dive in Bridgeport, corner bar where badges bought rounds. I waited in the shadows. Hoodie up, the same one from the heist. When he stumbled out, cigar lit, I stepped into the sodium pool. Remember me, detective? He froze. Pork chop brows furrowing. Reyes. Should be in a cell.
I smiled. Cold.
Should be. But plots twist. We talked, or monologued, in his cruiser. Engine idling like a confession. Jake sold you out. I lied.
Testing.
Voss sparked a laugh. That punk?
He's chum.
But you. You were the perfect fall.
Perfect.
Until I wasn't. Anna's kid yours. She named names before the pills. His face twisted. Cigar dropping ash.
Lies.
She was junkie trash. Trash he'd impregnated. Then erased. I hit record on my phone. Hidden in sleeve. Admit it.
Voss.
The OD. The bribes. The frame. All for your empire. He lunged. Meaty hands grabbing collar. You think you're smart? Jake's rotting because of you. No, because of us. The tussle spilled us onto pavement. My knee to his gut. Ruiz materializing with cuffs, her PI license be damned. Chicago PD, she growled, though she wasn't. Backup sirens wailed, real feds this time, tipped by my anonymous drop. Voss spat bloodless curses as they Mirandized him. You'll regret this. Puta.
Did I?
The trial blitz. Voss flipped, naming Jake as co-conspirator. Me as unwitting pawn. Jake's testimony? A bombshell, video confession from Anna's last night. Voss injecting the spike. Jake had hidden it to protect the op. But now it aired. Grisly and gray. Public split. Jake, the tragic hero. Sacrificing love for law? Or manipulative sociopath? Dooming innocence?
Me?
Victim or vigilante? Exposing the beast at personal cost? Verdicts cascaded. Voss. Life without. Jake. 10 years. Reduced to 5 on cooperation.
Me?
Cleared. But scarred, civil suit pending from Anna's family. Painting me as accessory. Mom burned sage in the condo. Now mine via asset forfeiture. Justice? Mija, she asked, beads clicking. I shrugged. The American kind. Messy. Months later. A letter from Jake. I chose wrong roads for right reasons. If there's an us after, find me. I burned it on the balcony. Chicago winds scattering ash like wedding rice. Happy?
No.
Tragic?
Arguably.
But free, finally unchained. The real twist? That unknown texter?
Me?
From a pre-wedding burner. Loops closed in self-sabotage. To force the confrontation. To end the cycle. Controversial? Hell yes. Worth it? In the mirror, my eyes said yes. The girl in the hoodie had won. Or so I tell myself. Toasting the skyline with tequila neat. Forever's a long game.